Good morning, good afternoon, folks.
Hello.
Matt, I admire you being on camera right now and see full of names I recognize a lot.
Someone's got to be on camera.
Sorry, it did not mean to pressure. Feel free to go off. All good. Don't be offended. Hi, Victoria. All right. So, Melanie, do you want to take us off? So I continue to admit folks in.
Yeah, people are still filtering in, but I guess to get us started while we're waiting to get into the content, if folks could put in the chat what firm they're from, their name, and whether they are returning reporters, or if the materials pledge is brand new, never reported before, here to get more information. That'd be great to understand who is in our audience as we get started. And I know the materials pledge is a little bit newer than the 2030 commitment, so no judgment here. We want all folks of all levels of familiarity coming together. All right, see some stuff coming in here. Great. Awesome. Returning reporters. Look at that. We're doing our jobs. People are coming back. Okay, let's do some introductions and then get into the content. I'm going to go to the next slide. So Ina and I are here on camera. It's not advancing for me. Oh, there we go. And we are both your pledge program managers and directors. We answer all questions pledge related, and we work on both the 2030 commitment and the materials pledge as well. So we can help answer questions on both, but today we are here primarily to talk about our second year of materials pledge reporting and understanding what that looks like, getting more people into our system, getting more people reporting. And just to introduce myself, Melanie, I come from the firm world, worked at Gensler, worked at Hickok Cole in DC based. And I've been with AIA for a little over 5 years, previously in a research capacity, and now in the climate action team. I'll let Ina introduce herself.
Hi all, so good to see you. I see a lot of familiar names, whether it's from the 2030 realm or the materials pledge realm. My name is Ina Bakioki. I use she, her pronouns. I have been with AIA for about 3.5 years now on the climate team, and I've been working as our climate action program manager the past 2 years, both on the AIA 2030 commitment as well as the A&D materials pledge. I'm excited to kick off our second year of reporting, and yes, this recording will be distributed to you all in the next 24-ish hours. So if you have colleagues that weren't able to attend, know that it's coming your way.
Yeah, and just before we get into content, we will be monitoring the chat. We will be putting links in the chat as well for reference points. We will also share these via an email afterwards. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. We will both be kind of monitoring that. But when we get to kind of the question answer part at the end, feel free to raise your hand and then unmute and ask a question. And we've got some folks here, I believe, who are a part of the working group as well and can help answer questions. And we'll cover all that at the end. Next slide, and I think we're ready to jump in.
Sorry, Melanie, I'm having so much trouble today with, I promise I'm usually not this technological inept. All right. Okay. Cool. I think this is me. So,
Yep.
you all kind of know the AI 2030 commitment. And so we often call the materials pledge the kind of little sibling to the AI 2030, because kind of at the root of it, they are really similar in terms of the structure of the program, in terms of staff that work on it, as well as we're always trying to create synergies with our working group members that are both on the 2030 decarbonization side, as well as the kind of materials pledge and holistic materials side. So a lot has happened in the AI materials world these past few years. The way that we have started to think of kind of the work that we've been doing since its inception in 2018 is first the step one. So kind of in the 2030 realm, we thankfully had Architecture 2030 to set that goal of carbon neutral by 2030, which now seems very, very aspirational, but when they were doing it back in 2005, we had 2.5 decades to achieve that goal. But the materials pledge is a little less numbers heavy or numbers specific. Really is just bringing forth holistically sustainable building materials into the industry, and how we categorize them are across our 5 impact categories. So knowing that holistic materials is not just looking at carbon, it's not just looking at human health, it's really touching the human health, the climate health, ecosystem health, circular economy, as well as the social health and equity side of materials. And then step 2 of the program, where a lot of our work has been centered these past 2 years, is starting to build out the metrics and reporting system. So knowing that the AIA adopted the materials pledge in 2018, a lot of kind of quiet underground work, I would say, has been happening between 2018 and 2023, and it really wasn't until 2023, 2024 when we started to speak externally about what this pledge would actually look like for signatories. So you all were able to sign on to the pledge via our really handy dandy jot form, but I know that we have a lot of longtime signatories and you were left a little hanging for about 5 years. And we're really excited that last year was our first year of inaugural reporting. So our materials pledge working group originated in 2023. And 2023 and 2024 was really all about creating that framework for reporting, pulling together what data metrics that we wanted to start tracking as a program, and how we, as the AI Materials Pledge and its signatories, can start to define what progress looks like in terms of the healthy materials sphere. So it was really exciting to see a lot of returning signatories. So our program has almost 300 returning reporting signatories, pardon. Our program has a little under 300, actually 299 as of today. So phone a friend if you want us to hit 300 signatories by the end of the day. But we had in our first reporting year about 92 reporting signatories report their materials data. And we'll get a little bit more into that as well, but just giving you a good sense of kind of what's been happening in the material space, how AI has started to work via its materials pledge in terms of making an impact in the architecture and design industry, and noting that our progress is now cataloged in the handy dandy AI materials pledge by the numbers report. So we'll be sharing out that link shortly, but this, similar to the 2030 by the numbers report, is sharing out all of the data that was reported out to us last year in the summer, anonymously and aggregated, but really giving the industry that first checkpoint of how we're doing and kind of where are those points that we need to start to improve. So for our returning signatories, this will look very familiar. The way that we decide to structure reporting is at the firm, project, and product level. knowing that there are so many things that your firm can be doing on each of these levels in terms of materials. And in terms of reporting, firm level is going to continue to be required for signatories this year, and project and product level reporting is going to continue to be optional this year. So knowing that last year was a relatively quickly rollout, you'll remember you didn't have that much time to give us the data, and we apologize and promise it's going to be longer this year. But that firm level is really kind of that first stop shop of really assessing how your firm is doing in terms of operational and firm culture wise, knowing that that inherently will do that trickle down in terms of how you all approach material selection on the project level and then the product level. Last year, so of those 92 firms that reported, we had all 92 report firm level, but we also had about 56 of those firms start to dive into the project and product level. So that was really encouraging to see folks who have already been doing the work, but were ready to report at least a couple projects from their firm, and show us kind of what they have been doing in terms of improving their material selection. This is our by the numbers report. So knowing that we operate kind of very similar to taxes, what you're reporting this year in 2025 will be a summary of what your firm did, either firm culture wise, project or product level wise in 2024. So that's why you'll see in a lot of our communications that parentheses RY24. And then quickly at a glance from last year, what we were able to glean from the 92 signatories was really a really great first point of kind of 136 projects were reported with a little over 500,000 gross square feet. In the firm level section, 61% of the reporting firms already had a sustainability action plan with materials goals embedded within them. So knowing that 2030 commitment signatories are required to have an SAP, and materials pledge signatories will eventually be required to have either an SAP with a materials component or a standalone materials action plan, however your firm sees fit. Human health and climate health were the most reported impact categories. So kind of this was unsurprising and a good reflection of kind of where the industry has a lot of knowledge already, and making improvements. So, excuse me, in terms of other questions that were poking at firm knowledge, human health and climate health were by far the leading impact categories that firms felt that they had a good grasp on. And then in terms of the most reported product types, so if you all have dived into the reporting, materials pledge reporting guidebook, you will know that we have a handy dandy table of suggested product types that are super common, knowing that there's an other button as well, so you can report product types that might not be on that list. But of those 22, carpeting, resilient flooring, and acoustical ceilings were the most reported in that order. And then last was 79% of reported projects were in pursuit of building certification, whether that was LBC or LEED, or any others. So kind of what our working group is focused in on later this year is showing that we're not just asking you to collect all these data points for the sake of it. There is a lot of crosswalks in terms of what data you're already collecting to for these building certifications. And so we want to kind of show that there's a lot of overlap, and what kind of where and how to start cataloging those overlap data points. All right, so you all should have received our kind of kickoff email, but just to quickly go over, our reporting annual window is February through end of May. So May 31st at midnight is that cutoff date. For those who have been in open water, you'll know that it is not like the DDX. You can technically report or submit your portfolio on the DDX past the March 31st date. though we do not recommend that. In open water, they will cut you off on May 31st, midnight. So unless you have spoken with staff on an extension, come June 1st, you won't be able to submit your data. So that is a pretty hard and fast deadline. Required firm level, optional project and product level. I'll note that if your firm did do firm level metrics, but maybe not project and product level metrics last year, we would encourage you to start to dabble into the project and product level realm. Whether that is maybe not even reporting, but really just looking at our new tracking spreadsheet and seeing what are the data points that we're asking you to report, just so you kind of can start to incorporate that into your workflow this year for next year's reporting. And then also noting that there will be a future requirement of materials pledge signatories, of a materials action plan, or a sustainability action plan that has a strong materials component into it. And we're currently working on an additional resource just to help folks with some guiding questions to implement and think about goals and benchmarks for a materials action plan component. Eligibility. So similar to 2030, if you have signed on to the materials pledge before 2024, you are required to report. If you've signed on to the materials pledge last year or very, very early this year, you are strongly encouraged to report. And I'll give that pitch of, we've had members say that the firm level reporting survey took them about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe tops an hour. So hopefully not too much of a lift there. But knowing that there is kind of an on-ramp in terms of first signing on to the program and then starting to incorporate reporting into your workflow, we leave this slight cushion for new signatories to take a year, get their bearings, start to think about materials action plans, and then coming into their second full year as a signatory, requiring them to report their data. In terms of eligibility, so if you're diving into that project and product level reporting, so you're going to be reporting active projects that were alive and well in 2024. And then also noting that a decision made by our working group and staff is that the reporting is based on IFC/CD set, and each project is only to be reported once. So this is different from 2030, where if a project was active last year and 2 years before, you're going to continue to report that project. That's not the case for the materials pledge reporting. Once we kind of know what materials data that you were doing for project A, that's kind of it. I don't think too much will have changed across years. And then you all should have received reporting links. They are not unique and they can be shared. And so if for whatever reason that didn't hit your inbox, please just email us at materials@ai.org. We're happy to share those. Something different from last year and those feedback that we received from our signatories and our working group members is the project and product level and the firm level reporting are now two separate links. So for firm level reporting, you are asked to coordinate with your colleagues and ensure there's one submission coming from Perkins Eastman or HOK, et cetera. But for project and product level reporting, multiple firm members can submit multiple projects and product level data. So if Melanie and I, between us two at AIA, wanted to submit 4 projects and wanted to tag team those, 2 of those projects can be submitted via her account on open water, and then 2 of them can be submitted on my account. So this is hopefully logistically helpful for you all to kind of divide and conquer the level of reporting that your firm is deciding to do this year. The only thing that we ask is making sure that your listing stays the same company name. So both Melanie and I would be coming from AIA. And so when we on the back end are doing our data analysis, making sure that we're able to attribute that AIA submitted 4 projects across 2 members. reporting timeline, opened February 1st, but no one came knocking on Saturday for the reporting links. Thank you for that. Those are all alive and well right now, though, and then will be closed May 31st at midnight. And then you should have seen our open office hours schedule. So today we're really going through the logistics, big high level overview of what to expect these next few months in terms of reporting. But February 19th and March 18th are the spots where we're going to dive a little bit deeper. If you all have questions about the structure of firm level or project and product level, or if there's just like this tiny little clarification you need, swing by to those open office hours, as well as email us at materials@ai.org in case you have any questions and need them responded to a bit more timely. And with that, I'll leave Melanie to walk us through a couple new and old resources that we wanted to point you all in the direction to.
Great. Thanks, Ina. So a few things that have been around for a while. I'm going to move on to the next slide. The starting, oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself. Okay, so getting started. When you're thinking about reporting, it's a little bit of a different process from 2030 commitment. We have the jot form is available via our website. I put the landing page a little further up in the chat. You can get to it there, and it'll create an auto email, and we'll get you set up with an account in Open Water so you can start your reporting. Some of these are a little more general. We want you to share that you signed on, and I know there was a question about doing a little graphics. We can look into that definitely. We want to help promote that our members are signing on and reporting for sure. There's local code committees around the country at different components who do some programming. We'd love to see more of it related to materials pledge specifically, and we can help support that if you want to put together some materials for your local firm or component. And then we'll get into this, but we'll show the community hub, which is the peer-to-peer network where you can speak to other signatories. And we have a ton of resources that are listed there. It's kind of a library as well as a place to chat and share wins or ask questions as well. And then within your first 6 months, we do have some AIAU educational materials that you can go through. And then one of the broader goals for both 2030 and materials is to have a sustainability action plan with a materials action plan as part of that, or as a subset or an addendum to that. And we are working on updating AIA's guidance for how to do this right now, including some materials, planning, best practices, things of that nature. So more to come on that. Specifically, if your firm has a good materials action plan, we'd love to hear from you too, and share out good case studies. Next. Okay. So this materials pledge starter guide has been around for a few years now. This is the best place to go if you want general overview of the pledge program, you want to understand what the different impact categories are, and get a kind of broader scope. This was created before the actual reporting structure. So this is a great overview if you want to pitch your firm CEO and why you should be joining, and they ask, well, what is it? Well, this is a good place to start. Next slide. This materials pledge reporting guide, and we can show you where these are after we get through the slides, is for people who are ready to get into reporting. This has some FAQs, it has some best practices, it shows how the transparency and the optimization subcategories, for lack of a better word, function, and the different product types are all listed out in there. So it's kind of a good overview to have with you as if you're getting started with reporting or need a refresher. Next. And then this is what I was just mentioning about the sustainability action plan guide. We are working to update this and bring in more materials content into it, but just to note that yes, we require that firms be at least working on a sustainability action plan for their firm as part of the commitment to signing on to these pledge programs. And we don't have a date yet for requiring a materials action plan. We certainly want to get our own resources out there too. But yes, we would love for you to be working, actively planning. All right, materials pledge peer-to-peer network. Ina can talk a little bit more about this, and then I will actually do a screen share and show you, kind of do a little walkthrough as well.
Yeah, so this is our peer-to-peer network. So if you all have been part of the 2030 peer-to-peer network that used to live on Basecamp, but now is back on AI Community Hub, this is kind of your one-stop shop to both ask us questions and hear updates from us, but really is meant to be a community space for you all who are working both on AI materials pledge work, but also just in general materials work. So if there is an interesting article, new resource, a webinar that you want to share out to this group, these are kind of the folks who have said, I'm an AI materials pledge signatory, and I'm interested in learning more and connecting with other materials-minded people. It's structured, if any of you are part of AI knowledge communities, it's structured in the same way. So there are places where you can include discussion posts. This is where we will have newsletter, blog posts live and well. And then this is also where we put our resources for both materials pledge reporting, as well as ask you all, you should be able to share out your own resources via the library section as well. So there should be a folder that's labeled shared resources. So if you have a materials action plan that you really want to share out, feel free to upload it into there, or any guidance documents that you thought were really great in terms of the materials work that you're doing. If you're not part of this, or your colleague who is working on materials is not part of it, please send us an email at materials@ai.org, and we'll make sure that you're on there. I'll note that the folks who are on this peer-to-peer network are directly correlated, or like it's the same listserv to our materials pledge newsletter that comes out quarterly. So really this is the place to be to get updates, certainly from the AI materials pledge side as well.
I think the last two, resources are new for this year, and I'll let Ina explain a little bit more about what they are, and then we can show you where they are on the network itself.
Yeah, so similar to last year, you all, in case you don't want to dive into open water just quite yet and want to just get a gauge of what is being asked for you in terms of firm level and product level, I've uploaded just a PDF. It's really copy and paste from the open water survey link, but it gives you a good sense if you either want to share it out with a colleague, or if leadership is asking you, like, what are they even asking to do? This is just a PDF of all the firm level questions. I'll also give a caveat for folks who are returning signatories. We did very, very minor light touches to some firm level and product level questions, mainly to respond to questions or asks for clarifications that we got back in feedback last year, as well as eliminated some redundant questions, helped kind of flesh out some of the transparency and optimization definitions that you saw at the top of each impact category. But by and large, all of these questions are the same and will remain very, very similar in the future. So similar to 2030, we're not looking to ask you a whole new set of questions each year. We're really trying to measure progress across years, and the only way to do that is to be collecting the same data. And this is new as well. So our working group members worked pretty diligently on what we're calling the project and product level tracking sheet. And so I know that we're all trying to move away from spreadsheets and towards digitization, but until we are there, this spreadsheet is available for you all to download and work on with your colleagues or team members simultaneously. And this has all of the project and product level questions and types of responses listed on this tracking sheet. So you're able to kind of upload it onto your SharePoint and work together with your team. And then if you so choose, divide and conquer who is inputting what via open water. I know that a lot of firms had already created their own tracking spreadsheet for last year, noting that it was a lot of questions to kind of go through in the survey format, but wanted to share this out as kind of the official reporting spreadsheet and knowing that they're reflecting all the minor updates that we did to the project and product level questions. And with that, we're just going to give you a quick walkthrough on where to find these. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we can address them at the end or just type in on the fly.
Great. So I am going to share my screen of the Community Hub itself. And noting, I put the link in the chat as well, but it's not a nice clean link. So you want to have access to the Community Hub and be a member before you can actually access some of this stuff. The spreadsheet is not directly on the AIA website at the moment, so you need to go through the Community Hub to access that. So this is what the overview looks like. If you're part of a knowledge community, as we said, you're probably familiar with this layout. The whole platform is called the Community Hub and used to be called KnowledgeNet. And this particular community is the Architecture and Design Materials Pledge peer-to-peer network. There's also one for the 2030 commitment. If you're interested in that, send us an email. We'll get you sorted out. But some things to note here, it's a little bit of a combination between a library and a way to have discussions or even write articles and blog posts. Every once in a while, we'll have one of our co-chairs do an article, or if there's a new innovation or something in the material world, we might feature it here. But noting that there's some quick links here on the right-hand side, these will take you directly to the guides that we were just talking about, also to AIA's Framework for Design Excellence, the Sustainability Action Plan guidance that's on .org, as well as some of mindful materials, materials on the Common Materials Framework, and noting when we showed that timeline that these sort of developed in tandem and are meant to communicate with each other so that we're not working at cross purposes here. And then noting here on the left, these PDFs here of the questions that Ina was just talking about, they're just listed twice here, but it's the same resource. This is just a actual post that goes into a little bit of detail. And the other one was just the direct PDF link that will take you directly there. And as well, here's the product and project level tracking spreadsheet. This will take you directly to a download to your direct computer as well. And Ina has been putting our signatories up on here as well. So right now you can click in and see who our signatories are if you have questions or want to reach out. And then we're putting a little notation here if they're active reporting signatory, kind of like we have the 2030 directory. This is the materials pledge version of it. Anything else that we should click into as we're here? Anybody have any questions on where to find something on here? I will note, mostly it's just Ian or I posting here at the moment. That's not what it was set up for. It is a place to get resources, but really we want this to be useful to our members so that they can ask each other questions, post webinars that they're doing, best practices. This should really be an active community for signatories. All right, not seeing any specific questions. Do we want to jump into open water and show some of that? Or would people rather see the PDF? I could open the PDF. Up to you.
Hi, Teresa. In noting this question, are there guidelines for how many projects and products that are recommended to be reported based on firm size, although it is optional this year? Great question. It's come through our working group a couple times now. We opted not to publish any guidelines for this. And I'm gonna dig through my inbox because I know that there are a couple numbers floating around and I'm not remembering them at the top of my head. But really kind of the maxing out, if I'm recalling correctly, the large firms, so firms over 50, we weren't suggesting anywhere kind of, it was in the like 10 to 15 project realm. If that helps you kind of, so, and then small firms 1 through 9, in terms of firm size would be closer to 1 through 5 projects, and medium-sized firms 5 through 10. And I think there are a lot of caveats to this. So knowing that's kind of why we decided not to publish any guidelines around this. But if you have already reported projects last year, you're probably in a better place to know what to expect and maybe have already been collecting data from last year's projects to report this year, so you're able to up that. Or if you're brand new and you're still a large firm, but you still can only wrangle about 3 or 4 project and product level data. And then also noting that project and product level data is optional, and they're also not, what is the phrase, mutually exclusive. So if Melanie was working on project A, and she had all the questions, answers ready for the project level questions, but didn't have any product level data, there's a spot for you to say, nope, no product level data, couldn't get it this year, and then just leave it at that. And then you can report up to, I think it's 7 or 8 product types for each project. So that was kind of a limit that we didn't see any firms surpass that last year. So that's where we kind of drew that line.
You want to wear yourself out, go for it. I'm just going to open the open water portal here just to show you a couple of things. And so I will note also, I came into this role end of last year, Q3 of last year, when reporting had already closed. But I think maybe the biggest change for this year is taking out or separating the firm level from the project and product level reporting, correct? That process. So it should be a lot easier for folks to just go in and at least do the firm level. I did it this morning. It took me about 10 minutes. So it's super easy. So just to say, this is what the open water interface, this is what your quote unquote dashboard looks like. And I just did some test inputs here, the firm level and the product and project level. Once you submit, you cannot go back in and complete. So you may want to wait if you don't have all the information at your fingertips, but you can also save as you're going through the process. And I'll just quickly show you what the firm level looks like. This is just the kind of landing page. This is the same. Basically going through, looking at firm size, who's submitting, what your firm is. We ask about the 2030 commitment. We want our signatories to be signatories of both other commitments that we know some firm members are participating in. Asking specifically about the materials pledge, how you talk about it. Sustainability action plan right here, and the little asterisk denotes that it's a required question versus an optional one. You can upload PDFs here that will come to us. There's also a question, I think, that was in the first page saying you agree to share. We can also do that on a case-by-case basis. Then asking about your materials library and project criteria for the whole firm. And if you reported last year, this is pretty much the same. Educational programming, how much does your firm leadership know about the materials pledge? Assess your firm's knowledge. And these are the impact categories here. Those remain the same throughout. And then is your firm tracking materials in each project? To what extent? Few or all the way up to all. Materials metric, how do you do it? We love it when people share their tracking tools, gives us a better sense of what you all are doing out there and how we can help. Who is setting materials selection or guidelines? Policies related to the impact categories, and then whether you are reporting project data.
Melanie, I'm gonna quickly pop in.
Yeah.
I see a question. Sorry, I missed it. How do you access open water? So
Great
you
question.
all should have received the link to it's to open water via email. So that's what kind of we're calling our reporting links. So once you click on that, so if you're an AI member or already have an AI account already, it will be a single sign-on. So it should kind of either prompt you for your AI member email and password, and then that'll log you straight into Open Water, which is the platform that we're utilizing for this. It's the same platform that our honors and awards team utilizes as well. If you're not an AI member or have an account, that's totally okay. It will just ask you to, it'll prompt you to create an account, and where you'll just be designated as a non-AI member, but you'll be able to access Open Water. As non-AI members, you're also able to join AI community hubs as well via this account. So it'll just be like Ina Bakioki, non-AI member, here are the credentials and everything, and it will bring you to this site where you see that Melanie is already logged in. If you have any issues or questions surrounding that, feel free to ping us, and we're happy to help troubleshoot any particular cases. I'll also note as reminders, once you're in Open Water, to routinely save your answers. So we all have forgotten to save and missed out on our good work. So that's kind of the prompt I'll give there. You'll see a prompt at the very end of like firm level or project and product level that says save and submit. That is what you need to click to be considered a reporting signatory. And you will have received a confirmation email if you have successfully submitted it. So if you don't, then it's worth just going and double check and make sure that everything's there and it's submitted. Yeah, I think those were my two biggest reminders for Open Water stuff.
So I can quickly go into the project and product level as well. This one is a lot more lengthy, although I will say going through the project level was pretty straightforward. It's when you get down into product level, there's some nesting questions that get into a lot more detail. Same sort of first pages here. And you can also tell up here which section you're in, which is really nice. You can use this as your kind of cookie crumbs to go backward and forward. If you forgot to fill something out, totally fine. Again, asking about 2030 commitment, good practice to use the same project number, just not to confuse yourself if not for anything else. Ask what project type, interior whole building. This is similar to 2030, similar use types as well. Conditioned, unconditioned space, building certifications, which ones? Sustainable building materials criteria, if applicable. And then, okay, here's the question: firm grant permission for AI to share information associated with this project. And then we'll reach out to you. So here's the save button. Save early, save often. You know the drill. Save and next. Then we get into a little bit more strategic project information, deconstruction, getting into circular economy, resilience, reclaimed materials, VOCs, reducing material usage, select all that apply. Again, more about rating systems. And then here this is new, right, Ina, the embodied carbon question? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So this also relates to the ECHO schema, which is also now in 2030 commitment as well. That's where these structure specifications come in. If you have an embodied carbon number, we'd love to see that. And then your primary motivation. I love that question.
I will just respond. I just did it in the chat as well, but so unfortunately we don't have a bulk upload function for open water. I wish we did. And so really that tracking spreadsheet is meant for your internal purposes in terms of just tracking all the projects and products that you are hoping to submit in one spreadsheet. And maybe if you have an intern, you can task them with submitting it all on your behalf. But yeah, we're still working towards a digitization, as folks know, kind of in the mindful materials form as well. That is a big goal for these next few years in the material space.
So noting where we are in open water now, I feel like the firm and then the project information is fairly straightforward. It shouldn't take too long. Here is where I'm gonna hit OK because this is a test account. If you don't have any product level information, you're done. You can hit submit. It'll be considered reporting. Pretty easy. If you do have product level data, that's where it gets a little bit more involved. This is some stuff I put in earlier, but just to show you, there's drop downs. You select your product type. You can only do one at a time here. And then it will open or close, not closing it at the moment, but anyway, it'll open or close based on whether you say yes or no. Maybe it is. Yeah, okay. So if you say yes, you don't have to do all of them. It'll open up the subsequent questions. We tried to include some definitions or context here to understand what we're asking for. Basically, you just can keep going. There's some links here as well. Look out for those. And then anything extra, if you want to add that in, it's the same kind of setup for each of the impact categories with slightly different questions here. And this is where the spreadsheet will help you out. If you fill that out first, you can come in and have all your information kind of just added in here. If not, you can do it directly this way as well. I'm not going to go through all these. You can go in, look around. You can always go down to the bottom, hit save, come back later when you have a little bit more time, chunk this out if you need to. And then by May 31st at midnight, hit save and submit. Any other questions? Anything you want illustrated, illuminated? Hit my save button.
Yeah, there's a question.
Hi.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Melanie, and thank you so much for this. I had a quick question about earlier, some clarification earlier. You said we can report up to 8 product types. Am I understanding that correctly? We could do this 8 times, or that's the minimum?
So yeah, I can show you where. All the way back down. Again. My monitor likes to turn itself off. Okay, so here's where you do you have additional product level data to share? So everything I scrolled through above here is just for the product that I selected, which was carpet. If you only have one product, you just hit no, save it, submit. If you have another product that you want to do the same thing, it opens the same menu again, and you just kind of keep going. So you could do resilient flooring. And this is what it looks like before you hit yes on any of these categories, and just continue on until you hit your 8.
Awesome, thank you.
8 product types per project is the maximum. But you can choose to report no product types for project A, for example, or you could submit anywhere between 1 and 8. But you can submit as many projects as you would like.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I'll also, I was typing in a response in the chat.
Sure.
So if each team member within the firm is using their own login to open water, is there a way we have insight to our firm-wide reports to date, similar to the DDX dashboard? Unfortunately, no. As you can kind of see a theme, open water has a lot of its limitations. And it's not really, it was never meant to be a way to kind of collect data or display data. So it's what we're using for now. So any way to kind of look at holistic firm project or product level data would require you all on the staff side to kind of consolidate that and do your own displays, data visualization. I will put a pin in this and we can chat with our working group. Similar to 2030, though it's a little less obvious sometimes for this data. I would love to kind of, once we're past the reporting period here, and share out different ways that firms are taking this data and actually turning it into action, next steps, or just kind of presenting it. So short answer is no. It would be on you to kind of create your own insights.
So we are a little over time. I can stay on until the end of the hour to answer these final questions. But if anybody needs to hop off, totally feel free. You can also email us. I was going to answer the manufacturer's question. We would love for you to say you're asking because of it's prompted by the AI materials pledge. We're happy to back that up as an organization. If you don't want to use the AIA, we understand, but I guess it's sort of up to your discretion. But yeah, would love to be included with conversations with manufacturers, and I know Mindful Materials is doing similar. A template to share with manufacturers, I'm not sure. We could provide PDFs so they could understand questions. Could do that. A summary of what AIA is doing with the product type data. How are you looking at the product data? I would love if we had Maria or one of our longtime Materials Pledge members on that. For now, us as staff are just putting it in our yearly report. We are not specifically going back out to product manufacturers at this point. But I would love our materials working group members to weigh in on that. Oh my gosh, so many questions coming in. Folks
Yeah.
decide on what product categories to focus on. Yeah.
I will
Or
note
other
on the product, kind of how we're looking at the product type data, question. This is, knowing so we have a kind of partnership with Mindful Materials, as well as a lot of overlap in our working group and forum members. And so I know that their team is a little more, goes into the realm of advocacy in terms to product manufacturers. And so we've talked to kind of Annie Bevan, shared out kind of our initial results, and we'll continue to do so as a really good indicator to see where either product data is lacking across the 5 impact categories or across that list of 22 product types. So those top 3 ones, carpet, resilient flooring, and acoustical ceilings, had a lot more data that was readily available. So that is inherently kind of a signal to the marketplace that product types that are not in those categories, then that might be the first place to start in terms of advocacy. Yeah, I think Gwen
Yeah,
had
that's a great kind of closing thought.
Yeah. Gwen, you had a great question that I would encourage you to pitch to the discussion board as well. But asking, how have you all decided which product categories to focus on in terms of kind of product categories or impact categories or types of projects? Be curious if anyone wanted to share out how they decided, how they've approached what to report.
Yeah, if we could get a discussion going on the peer-to-peer network, that'd be great too. Alrighty, I think we will wrap it up for the afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining us on our new